Welcome to the Registered Investment Advisor podcast, where financial services marketing expert Seth Green interviews experts, executives, and top producers to share can't-miss tips on how they successfully manage their financial service firms, grow their businesses, create great relationships, and influence the industry. And now, here's your host, Seth Green.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Green. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Nick Stuller, CEO of MyPerfectFinancialAdvisor.com. Over the past 15 years, Nick was CEO and co-founder of two of the largest advisor directory businesses, Discovery Data and Meridian HQ. 2018, he authored a book called The Truth Will Set Your Wallet Free, The Secrets to Finding the Perfect Financial Advisor. He has been in the New York Times, Dow Jones, Reuters, Yahoo, and pretty much everywhere else. Nick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Our pleasure. Let's go back in time. You got started as a financial advisor yourself, correct?
Yes, I worked for the firm Shearson, Lehman, Hutton, which is now Morgan Stanley, at the 14 Wall Street office, which was quite a time. So I got in early in the 80s. It was a lot of fun, learned a lot. Did it for a few years and then went on to really serve advisors for really the entirety of my career, except for those first 3 years or so.
What prompted the switch from what used to be known as Slamex to helping advisors?
Well, back then, as you will know from movies like Wolf of Wall Street, not that my office was like that.
Hey, I've worked on a trading floor. I know what that's like.
You know, cold calling clients is a rough business. I did it for 3 years and it wasn't for me. And so I left and found a firm called Waterhouse Securities, which became TD Ameritrade, which is now Schwab. And I went on to their brand new division. I was the third employee in the division serving registered investment advisors. And so even though I worked on Wall Street for a few years, I had no idea what an RIA was. But when I read the ad, I said, this is interesting. And I dove in and so that's how I made the move.
Well, congratulations on that. Our industry is certainly very glad you did. I didn't like smiling and dialing all day either. So talk a little bit about the evolution, because obviously you went from Waterhouse / Ameritrade / Schwab to Discovery Data and Meridian HQ. What prompted that evolution?
Well, in between, I left, it was then Waterhouse Securities, and I went to run sales, to be the head of national sales for a regulatory compliance firm called National Regulatory Services. And they were looking for a sales director. They were growing. And I had a feeling that compliance would be a big part of the industry. And at the time, they were the number one firm. So I moved to Connecticut and was there for many years and was there for about 7 years until National Regulatory Services got acquired, by Thomson. And so during my time at NRS, they had a directory of advisors. So I started getting an affinity for data about advisors. And I knew advisor, specifically RIA data well, because part of the diligence process when I landed a new client, this is back in the 90s at Waterhouse, the first step is we had to read through their ADV just to make sure we wanted them as a client. So I read hundreds and hundreds of ADVs. And so by the time I got to this compliance firm, they had all this data electronically. And so that was pretty cool and pretty novel. And so anyway, was at NRS until they got acquired, and then was laid off, actually. And then a mutual friend of a friend said, hey, I have an idea. Maybe the world needs an advisor directory online. And I said, I know a lot about that. And so he didn't know the space. I did. We joined forces. And that's how I made the leap to be the co-founder and the CEO of Discovery Data.
And I mean, you grew Discovery Data to the largest in the industry. Talk a little bit about that journey. What were some of the lessons you learned along the way?
Learned a lot of great lessons, and we had a phenomenal team. Many of them are still there because the firm, after I left, has been sold a couple of times. But learned a lot. One of the great big lessons is if you listen to your clients, specifically your paying clients, about what they want, if you really listen to them, that's the best product development you can get your hands on. I had ideas that I thought were pure genius, and nobody loved them. I mean, I had a lot of good ideas too, but I did have ideas that were in the light of day not that great. But when a client had an idea, whether I agreed with it or not, and we developed this rule of 3 different clients at a sample say the exact same thing, I want the exact same feature. That's all the statistical inference we need. We'll just do it. And boy, did that work out so well. But you had to commit to it, because a lot of companies give lip service to when a client says, "Can you do this?" And they'll say, "Well, yeah, we'll put it on the list." We actually just almost blindly did it, as long as there were 3. And it was B2B, business to business. So that's easier than business to consumer, because consumers don't always, they're not as rational feedback givers as, B2B are. So that was a big, big lesson. And also another big lesson was the team is everything. If you get a great team, you really just got to hire well and get out of their way, give them leadership. You really don't need to manage people if you hire the right person. So I learned that, very well at Discovery.
And then talk me through the chronology. Did you leave Discovery, found Meridian, and then Meridian got acquired back by Discovery?
Yeah, what happened is the gentleman I co-founded Discovery with, he and I never really liked each other. It's actually funny. And I gave it, in my own mind, I gave it 1, maybe 2 years, and we'd part ways, but it lasted 7. So we had a falling out. So I left. A very intelligent guy, successful guy, but you were just philosophically we're different people. But he let me do what I wanted to do, and I ran the thing basically autonomously. Discovery, even though I was a minority shareholder, I ran it autonomously just about for almost the entire duration. But we had a falling out. I left, and then I teamed up with another fellow who had a different idea for kind of an advisor marketing platform, kind of way before its time. And we started building that out, another co-founder. And then a couple people at the firm, we had a few employees at the time, said, "Why don't we compete with your former firm?" Which I didn't want to do at first. And I really didn't, because I'd done Discovery and we did a great job and it was a great product, blah, blah. And a couple of people said, "Let's create another division and compete and start this Meridian." It was a Meridian IQ, it was called. And so I said, okay. And so we did, and we created a better mousetrap. And then what happened is, over time, it was like Coke and Pepsi battling each other out. Like we were literally like killing each other, both growing though. And then a private equity firm, really what happened is a PE firm or a PE group bought us both and merged us. I had no desire to do a database business of advisors a third time. So I early on said, I'm going to be doing other things. So that's what happened. A financial acquirer acquired both Coke and Pepsi, and deleted one bottling plant, if you will. And Discovery continues to grow. And from what I understand, really be the dominant player still.
Yes. Congratulations on all of that. Full disclosure, we are clients of your former firm.
Okay, great.
What inspired you to start My Perfect Financial Advisor?
Well, being in the industry now 30 years, in both meeting with advisors and meeting with investors, I've learned exceptionally well that advisors help investors. Full stop. You have an advisor, you're better off. So really, I've been thinking about for a long time, maybe 15 years, that there really is no objective place for an investor to go and get truly objective education and advice on how to hire an advisor. In the past, prior to me starting this company, it was really the wrong time to do an internet deployed tool to match investors to advisors, because at that time, maybe 7 years in the past, investors just did not want to give money to people over the internet. And the best example of that is the lack of traction of startup robo-advisors. They didn't get money under management. The basic psychology was, people are not comfortable writing $1 million check to a robo at that time. So time changed. And so in 2016, after the merger of Meridian and Discovery, I decided that the time was right and I was going to start a matchmaker. And really, the purpose of the company, the mindset was that I want to create a company that serves the investor first and the advisor second, and exists to help the investor improve their life by getting them a financial advisor. So created the company. The way we match is the investor, it's free to the investor. We charge right now the advisor $995, and the investor fills out their profile, and we tell the investor, based on the data, we think you should hire this named advisor. Hire Fred, hire Mary. Then we give them 6 alternates, and that triggers registration with the SEC. So we are an RIA because of the way we match the investor to the advisor. But I liken it really to like eHarmony, as opposed to the dating sites. For those people who are going to be watching this who haven't been on a dating site in a while, eHarmony or Tinder, you can peruse pretty pictures, handsome faces, and date people, as you want. eHarmony takes data from the 2 people and matches them together and uses their knowledge to say, these 2 people should be together. So we liken ourselves and mimicked that model, and our algorithm and our knowledge base is all based upon these 2 human beings should be together, and that's why we give you 7, a primary, fit, and then 6 others in rank order of fit, in case you don't like the one our algorithm says we like best for you.
I love the analogy of the eHarmony for financial advisor investor matchmaking. That's a great example. How many, if you're allowed to disclose, how many consumers have been on the platform, how many advisors have been on the platform, and how have you grown it so fast?
Sure. Some of the numbers we don't disclose because the last time I looked, we have 27 competitors, which is great. It's like the old adage, if a town has only 1 restaurant, the restaurant will do okay. 2 more come into town, all 3 of you grow. So I'm thrilled we have a lot of competitors. So some of the numbers we don't disclose, but we have a lot over 800 advisors on the platform right now. And they're busy with the leads and the clients we're sending them. And really, this is the first time in my career where marketing has really driven advisors to come to the site. And so we use content to drive investors to come to the site. On our website below the fold, you see we've written a lot of articles. They're all educational and non-commercial and evergreen. And for advisors, we've gotten good write-ups from Kitsis, from FA Magazine. We've gotten some decent press. And so and we were in the InvestNet Yodlee incubator program even before the product was completed. So between that and good press and social media, the vast majority of advisors have just come to us. And as we scale, of course, we'll hire on enterprise sales teams and follow that whole model that, we kind of really honed quite well at Discovery.
Well, that is awesome. You've built something incredible. Congratulations on that. With all the success you've achieved, what's your biggest challenge now?
That's a good question. The biggest challenge now is really debunking the myths that a lot of the investing public has. So I wrote a book a few years ago about how anyone can and should get a financial advisor, and did a lot of research and interviewing a lot of investors. And a lot of that work I'm using now and has been very helpful to building out the platform. So soon, hopefully soon is not, forever, but, hopefully soon we're going to be rolling out a lot of educational tools and content to help debunk a lot of the myths that investors, even really wealthy investors, have lots of myths and misconceptions about advisors. And I think the most aggressive statistic out there is 30% of American households have an advisor, which is incredibly low when you think about professionals. Everyone goes to a medical doctor. You don't think about never going to a doctor. You don't think about not using an attorney when you're involved with a heavy legal contract or a lawsuit. But the majority of investors don't think advisors really, even wealthy people, shun advisors, and that's a mistake. So our biggest challenge is really working on getting the word out with objective trustworthy education about advisors are not the boogeymen. There was a Madoff. He's dead now. There will be a Madoff in the future, but the majority of advisors are trustworthy and do a great job and are worthy of your consideration. And you should pick an advisor. You may have to change advisors, but you change doctors, you change attorneys, So that's the biggest challenge, is really educating the public in really trustworthy ways that the advice industry is necessary for you and beneficial. For example, so many people, even in our industry, don't know the Morningstar and the Vanguard studies that show, just on the portfolio side, a 300 basis point improvement over time on an annualized basis in your portfolio. And like, a lot of people don't even know these studies exist. So things like that we want to promote heavily, as objectively as we can, to really get investors and consumers, people without a portfolio who need basically a financial plan, to entrust advisors. So that's the big challenge. And it's going to be a many year, endeavor to get more and more people to understand that this is a group of professionals that are important to you and are necessary, for your financial health, and even, you could say, your entire well-being.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Just the conversations I have periodically with investors who say, wow, life is better now that I've found an advisor. I have talked to investors on a fairly regular basis, and those that go through the process and hire somebody, the stories they have about what they now know. And because no one's ever, and they use the book often. I refer them to the book. Sometimes I send them a book for free, an investor, if they're interested in going through it. It's a 200-page book, but no one's ever really talked to investors from, and we can be an honest, we have no axe to grind. We take all kinds of advisors. We don't sell an investment product. We never will. We really want to educate investors that you can get help, and your advisor could be very different from like your brother's advisor. Hearing these stories from investors is incredibly gratifying. I mean, we have changed lives for the better. That's pretty much everything.
It's a great reason to get up in the morning.
It is.
Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our advisors who are listening, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about how they can be a part of the Perfect Financial Advisor team?
Thank you. It's myperfectfinancialadvisor.com, and our website, and it's advisor with an OR, not an ER. And so our website has pretty much everything they need to know. And of course, they can send in an email to admin. There's emails throughout the site to contact somebody here at the firm.
Awesome. This has been Seth Green with Nick Stuller of MyPerfectFinancialAdvisor.com. Nick, thanks again for joining us.
Seth, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.